Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm Pat Rawls. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Healing Housing. And we really appreciate you all waking up maybe a little earlier than you might have and traveling through the rain to be here. This is an incredible crowd. And I know that this announcement's extremely important because the success of this event completely depends upon coffee. So there's coffee at your table, there's coffee in the back. If you run out at your table, just flag your table host or one of us, and we will go fill up your carafe. Okay, another announcement. You'll notice some of us have flowers on our lapels or whatever. We are all Healing Housing, either staff, participants, board members, management team. So if you have any questions whatsoever, hopefully one of us with the flowers can answer. And the last announcement that I have is these table arrangements are yours for the price of $20. So when you leave, if there's one and you want one, just leave a 20 where the vase was, and you can just, don't have to go to Fresh Market to. Okay. I do see the men thinking that's a really good idea. Anyway. All right. Now that I've got us all riled up, I would ask that we all bow our heads and go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Lord, we come to you with hearts of gratitude for what you have done to make Healing Housing a reality. Gratitude for planting a seed in Olivia's heart that has germinated into something life-giving and beautiful. Gratitude for the hearts of our staff who love each woman where she is on her road to recovery, whether she has been with us for a day or many months. Gratitude for every person in this room who was moved to be here today. And above all, Lord, gratitude for the women who are taking the steps necessary to beat their addiction. We pray that your presence and love will wash over all of us as we live into our best version of ourselves. Lord, we thank you for creating us to be in community. You know we need each other to accomplish your will. You know we need to be taught to love our neighbors as ourselves. And you know that by loving you, claiming our identity in you, and acting on that identity, that lives are transformed. Please continue to teach us how to do that. Lord, we pray that you continue to reveal yourself to us through the community of Healing Housing, of which we are all a part. Thanks be to God. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Happy Valentine's Day. And let me just give a disclaimer. Half of you have very wet pledge cards, and it's because I was pouring water at 6 a.m. So I apologize. We are so thankful you're here today. I'm Olivia Mullen, and I'm Executive Director of Healing Housing. And we really appreciate you spending your early morning with us today. Last year, Davis Chappell, our senior pastor here, gave the opening remarks. And since it was our first year and our first breakfast, we were all very nervous and excited about how everything was going to go. And after the breakfast was over, I asked Davis's wife, Sherry, if Davis thought everything had gone well. And her response was as follows: "Yes, I think Davis thought it went very well." She said he leaned over to her when it was over and said two things. "Wow, they finished on time." "And honey, this is your Valentine's dinner. And instead of flowers for you, I made a donation to Healing Housing." Guys, listen to me. This is not Valentine's dinner. You're not off the hook on flowers, and your generous donations today are not your wife's idea of a Valentine's Day present. Davis and Sherry couldn't be here today, and I think it's safe to say that instead of attending a Valentine's Day breakfast, he's funding a Valentine's trip. So I want to start by thanking the women behind the bacon and eggs this morning, Pat Rawls, our volunteer coordinator, and her helpers who so graciously took on this task last year and agreed to do it again this year. And Lauren Kissinger, our development director, who has spent countless hours working on this project and helping pull it all together. So thanks to both of them for a wonderful, wonderful morning. As many of you know, Healing Housing does not take government dollars, and we are solely funded by private contributions, and our fundraisers provide the majority of our funding. So your donations today are literally ensuring that our doors remain open in 2018. So thanks again to Pat and Lauren and your team for pulling this off. 2017 was the beginning of something really special with this ministry as we welcomed our very first participants into the Healing Housing family. I want to recognize the following groups of people without whom our opening would not have been possible. And as I call each group, if you'll please stand. The management team, the founding members and visionaries of this ministry who worked tirelessly on this project for 2.5 years, if y'all will please stand. Our board members who provide our oversight and our governance, if you'll please stand. Our development team who helped raise the necessary funds to open our doors and are tasked with raising the funds that will keep our doors open. Our incredible group of volunteers who have literally given thousands of hours to help make Healing Housing the best program in our community. I need you to stand if you've done any of the following. If you've brought Monday night dinners, please stand. If you're a volunteer therapist, you have saved Healing Housing a total of $70,000 this year. And you've helped change our women's lives. All the behind-the-scenes advisors to me and Lauren, and you know who you are, we wouldn't be here without you. The handymen and landscapers who work tirelessly to beautify our homes and have fixed everything the women have broken that we can't figure out how to fix. My doorknob fell off yesterday. Bob, can you help me? Anyone who was involved with Winnie Grizzle in the Jen's clothing closet, those who faithfully cooked the Monday night dinners, and those of you who have chaired and or served on event and planning committees or hosted events. Thank you so much to all of you. We really appreciate your help. Thanks to our staff, our development director, Lauren Kissinger, program director, Shelley Billingsley, housing director, Mama Gail Owens, and house manager and Healing Housing graduate, Becky Jordan. All of these volunteer teams wish to thank all of you who have given of your prayers and financial resources. Without your prayers and financial commitment, we would still be a dream on a piece of paper, and we would never have been able to open our doors and been able to serve the real heroes, our participants who've become our family. Thank you so much. At last year's First Love Breakfast, we spoke about the mission of Healing Housing, which is to restore purposeful living to women in recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. We bridge the gap for women who are at the end of their rope, who have no financial resources and nowhere to turn to continue their journey of recovery. Shortly after that breakfast, thanks to Carol Mangione and her coordination of your outpouring of donations of furniture and home goods, we rented and furnished 2 homes in Williamson County that allow us to house up to 14 women in recovery, and we were the first female recovery program in Williamson County. In April of 2017, one by one, we began to welcome women into our homes, and the Healing Housing family was born. Many of these special women join us this morning. We provide a home and a faith-based program where women struggling with addiction can break the bonds of addiction, rediscover their purpose, and live productive, God-filled lives. These homes are a haven where God's love is freely given and shared openly without judgment. A home with the motto, "Your mistakes don't define who you are. They're simply a part of your journey." In order to be accepted into our program, women must commit to the following. They have to have completed 30 days of treatment. They have to commit to staying with us a minimum of 6 months. They have to agree to attend a minimum of 4 AA meetings a week and 1 private counseling session per week, provided by our volunteer therapists. Participate in one-on-one financial counseling. They pay a weekly fee of $125 to stay with us, and we give $75 of that $125 back to them so that they can put it in a mandatory savings account so that when they leave, they have a small nest egg on which to restart their lives. They are provided opportunities to attend church and participate in Bible study and other faith-based activities. And last but not least, they are required to accept the unconditional love from all of you who have surrounded them and supported them on their journey. Faces have names. Chris, Jay, Kelly, Jessica, Becky, Helen, Nikki, Amy R., Grace, Tammy, Amy M., Miranda, Becca, Sydney, Brittany, Hallie. There are a total of 16 names on this list, names and faces we prayed for 2.5 years, long before we knew them. Some on this list have graduated our program. Some continue in our program, and some of the women I listed didn't make it through our program. A hurting mom of one of those girls is even with us today. That's life, isn't it? There are days when we put one foot in front of the other and it works. And there are those days when it's simply not enough and life takes us down. The women here today aren't hiding from their struggles any longer. They believe that their mistakes don't define them and that their choices are a part of their larger journey. And they also understand that their mistakes are life lessons that, when shared, can help the next one as they try to climb this hill of life. I was able to read this list of women due to one reason: the enormous number of you who have prayed, given money, physically labored at our homes, and participated in our fundraising events. You've made it possible for us to serve these women and have a front row seat to cheer for them as they change the trajectory of their lives and, in turn, write a new chapter in the lives of their parents and their children. This ministry has a generational impact that can't be overemphasized. One changed life changes generations to follow. Let's talk some statistics. Of these 16 women, 6 are from Williamson County, 3 from Davidson, 1 McMinn, 1 Sevier, 2 Sumner, 2 Madison County, and 1 from Arkansas. Of these 16 ladies, 50% have either completed the program or are currently participating. The other 50% dropped out before completion. The number of days it takes to find a job once a participant starts their job search is 2.5 days. Average hourly wage is $10.50. Types of employment: retail, food service, hotel service, just to name a few. Average number of children per participant: 1. Average age: 38. Percentage of participants that have been victims of abuse: 100%. These ladies represent our daughters, our sisters, our moms, our aunts, and our friends. We all know somebody who's struggling with the wretched disease of alcohol and drug addiction. In most instances, the alcohol and drug abuse starts as a way to cover a lifetime of pain, but quickly turns ugly as the chemicals begin to literally change the chemistry of the brain. 1 in 4 girls by age 18 has been sexually abused. Let me say it again. 1 in 4 girls by age 18 has been sexually abused. 1 in 6 boys by age 18 has been sexually abused. Whatever we're running from, sexual abuse, chaotic homes, parents so wrapped up in their problems that the children's emotional needs go unmet, or possibly years of physical and emotional trauma, coupled with bad decisions that haunt us, overwhelm our ability to deal with life as we know it. Checking out becomes a way of life, and we lose ourselves in what quickly becomes a destructive and all-consuming disease. Careers tumble, relationships crumble, bridges are burned to a crisp. And then Healing Housing gets the call. Do y'all have any beds available? My daughter has nowhere to go. Can you help me? Because so many of you in this room stepped up last year, we were able to answer the calls. We have 14 beds, a committed staff, and a slew of volunteer counselors and tireless volunteers ready to meet your daughter, a mom, the sister, the aunt who's hit bottom and is ready to start climbing back up the hill to find new purpose and meaning. In the faces of our women, we see hope and the best of what God has to offer: determination, strength, love, and such incredible purpose. I want to share a quick story that occurred shortly after our opening. For me to even tell this story is real growth for me as I learned to talk about our program in a real and honest way. Life at Healing Housing can be messy and beautiful all at the same time. I guess it's just a matter of perspective. Like all families, there are good times and struggles. It's not perfect. We're not perfect. Brentwood and Franklin aren't perfect. Our children aren't perfect, and we've chosen a messy and difficult business to be in. One evening in April, shortly after Healing Housing opened its doors, I said goodbye to two of our women as they left to attend an AA meeting. Kristen, a new participant that had literally arrived to us that day from Cumberland Heights, and Chris, who had been with us about a month, got into a car driven by a friend of Kristen's. Chris was dropped off at her meeting, and Kristen and her friend supposedly continued on to another meeting location. Chris arrived home on time from her meeting, but Kristen did not. Apparently, once Chris and Kristen had gotten in the car, the driver passed Kristen some alcohol, and she began drinking. Chris made a different decision. She chose not to drink the alcohol that was offered to her. She went to her meeting and returned home very upset about what had happened. Chris did not know where Kristen and the driver had gone after they dropped her off at the meeting. I had just arrived home when I received the call. The house manager called to let me know that Kristen had just returned home and was intoxicated and incoherent. I immediately drove back to Healing Housing and assessed Kristen's condition. I made the decision to call both the police and ambulance to the house. So the spell was broken. Healing Housing's new shiny image was discolored by blue lights and red lights, and the realization started to set in that this journey was not going to be easy. I also realized how quickly my thoughts went to, oh no, what are people going to think when they hear about this? Will this hurt our reputation with the church, the community? I went to this old standbys, judgment and shame, when I should have been focused on Chris upstairs, making one right step that night. Chris taking it one day at a time and deciding that day to put her recovery, her newfound purpose, and her renewed relationship with her family and God ahead of the alcohol and drugs. She won the battle that day. Kristen lost the battle that day. And as a friend reminded me after I recounted these events, Olivia, you're not going to win them all. You'll lose many along the way. Life is messy, and so it goes. Chris's story continues to be written. As our first participant and our first graduate, she's here today to share with you a bit of her story and Healing Housing's place in that story. What a blessing and role model Chris was as we walked with her through her time with us, and I'm proud to call her a graduate and a friend. After we watch a short video, we'll hear from Chris and two other Healing Housing graduates. Again, thank you so much for coming this morning.
Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Cleveland, Tennessee. I have 2 grown sons and 2 awesome grandsons. So I didn't start using drugs until my early 20s, mostly alcohol and pot at first. Then eventually it was whatever made me feel good. It's amazing to me what lengths I went to get drugs and what I did to get them. You name it, I've done it. In my 30s, my life was totally out of control. That's when my drug life met my criminal life. I ended up with a stiff prison sentence, and it soon became a revolving door for me. I went 4 times. This last time, my longtime mentor, Vicki, told me about this new recovery house in Franklin, Tennessee. And at the time, I had no idea where I was going to go or what I was going to do. So when I got out, I did go to Healing Housing. It was definitely one of the best things I've ever done. When I saw the house, I was like, wow, I'm going to live here. Every time I walked into the house, I always felt this overwhelming sense of peace. I ended up meeting most of my goals while I was there. I reconnected with my sons, my mom, and my sisters. I'm so grateful they gave me yet another chance. I bought a car within the first 2 months I was there. I saved $2,000 before I left, enough to get my own place when I finished Healing Housing. I started to rebuild my credit. Now my credit score has went up 80 points. My dream is to own my own house. I don't have enough words to describe how much love the staff and all the volunteers showed us and how supportive they were. I was the first one there and the first to graduate, so I've seen the house totally empty and I've seen it all the way full. All of the girls at the house bonded so well together. We've laughed and we've cried and we've told our stories together. We were like a family. To this day, we still talk to each other and they come to the shop to get their hair cut. The time that I was at Healing House is so precious to me, and I'm grateful to all the people that came into my life, and most of all for all the love I received while being there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Wise. I have my daughter, Blakelyn, in here, too. I'm sure you all saw her. I have another little girl, too, but she had to be at school today, so she wasn't able to come. I was the second girl to arrive at Healing Housing and the second girl to graduate. Before I talk about my experience at Healing Housing, I would first like to tell you all a little about my life and how I got to this point. I grew up in Hickman County with my parents and 3 siblings in a very dysfunctional home. As well as my siblings, suffered from a lot of verbal and physical abuse, which went on well into my teenage years. Growing up, I thought that the discipline I endured was normal. Little did I know it would play a huge role in the person I became. I took my first drink of alcohol when I was just a child. By the time I was 12, I was experimenting with marijuana and drinking when I could get my hands on it. As I got into my teenage years, I always wanted to be a part of the excitement. I constantly looked for a party to go to or someone to be with just so I didn't have to be at home. I started using harder drugs to cope with reality and to fit in because I thought that was the cool thing to do. I started getting involved with people I shouldn't, and by the time I was 20 years old, I was completely addicted. I tried to hide it and manage my life as best I could. I left home and went off to college, only to drive 3 hours back and forth every weekend to use. I eventually started using at school and skipping class until I failed out and lost my financial aid. I threw away the biggest dream I had, the biggest opportunity I had, and I didn't even care. Drugs had a complete hold on me, and I had no idea how to stop, nor was I ready. This went on for 8 years. I tried every way imaginable to stop. I went to 9 rehabs and wondered why no one could fix me. I substituted one drug for another, only to become more addicted. I lost my friends, I betrayed my family, I had no care or consideration for other people. I couldn't even quit for my children. I felt hopeless and helpless. I was angry with God and everyone around me. By 28, I had a criminal record and was on the run. I didn't have either of my children. I had no job and was living at my boyfriend's parents' house and using every day. As the book says, I lived to use and used to live. Every day was Groundhog Day. I hated myself for who I'd become, and for the first time in my life, I really wanted it to be different, but I knew something drastic had to happen. That's when God intervened. On December 5th, 2016, I found myself in handcuffs, being transported to the county jail for the first time, I was actually relieved. I sat in jail feeling miserable and completely forgotten. I desperately and humbly told God, I need your help. I don't know what to do or how to do it, so please help me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a peace come over me. I was okay with whatever happened, because from then on, part of me knew that I was going to be okay. After pleading into the 21st Recovery Court program and doing another 30 days in treatment, I moved into Healing Housing. When I first got there, I was scared, and I questioned whether I would make it. But after a few days, I settled in and felt very lucky to be able to be in such a beautiful place. Regardless of the circumstances, I felt proud to call it my home. Over the course of 8 months, I learned a lot. I learned to live sober and have fun. I learned how to support and love other women. I learned that I can follow the rules, but I don't always have to like them. And most importantly, I learned to love myself again. Healing Housing has not only been a blessing for me, but for my 2 beautiful daughters too. Living at Healing Housing allowed me to see the success around me and have a drive for that success. I have a job that I love and continue to progress with. I was also able to save enough money living at Healing Housing to finally move into my own place. Now I'm able to be with my daughters and be the mother I was made to be. I can't begin to express the gratitude I have for Healing Housing, the staff, the volunteers, and everyone involved. With help from Healing Housing program, I'm now 14 months sober. Healing Housing, thank you. Healing Housing is truly a gift from God, and I know I always have a support network to turn to for anything. God definitely put me in the right place, and Healing Housing will forever have a place in my heart.
Good morning. My name is Becky Jordan, and I am a graduate of Healing Housing and now a house manager. And I have 2 beautiful children. Thank you. If you only knew how much love goes on in that house, it's really, truly a blessing and just a miracle. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a daughter, Kaylee, who's 23, and a son, Ty, who's 17. And they wanted to be here today. They live in Southeast Tennessee, and they weren't able to. My daughter's actually a 911 dispatcher and a reserve police officer, and she has a very demanding job. But she wrote something, and she wanted me to read it to you guys today. So this is entitled, What Healing Housing Means to Me, from a Daughter's Perspective. Healing Housing is an answered prayer to me. My mother suffered for years with depression, but accompanied by a bottle. She comes from a prominent family in a small community who all felt the need to condemn rather than approach the problem and help find a solution. The only true support my mother ever had was from my little brother and me, but the weight on her shoulders seemed to take more space than our support and pleas did. On June 10th, 2017, I received an early morning phone call notifying me that my mother's vehicle was totaled and she was nowhere to be found. I honestly thought she was dead. The authorities told me that there was no way that she survived this accident. I thought the bottle had won and destroyed my life. But I was wrong, and my mother got another chance. The issue was not that she had an addiction, it was that she lacked the coping mechanisms to deal with stress, and the bottle filled her void. She went from having it all to losing it all, and Healing Housing has helped her to gain back not only her strength and sense of worth, it has also helped her to gain back her identity, someone who I haven't encountered in years. I honestly feel that Healing Housing turned ashes into beauty and helped me to get my mother back. They are showing her how to climb the mountain rather than carrying the mountain, and that is where her healing has begun. My mom is the awesome mom that she used to be to my brother and me. Healing Housing has made all of the difference, not only in her life, but in mine. Ever since I was 3 years old, I have had such a huge passion for music, and it has always been a part of me. And when I was in recovery, obviously there's typically no music there. And one of my counselors there, Doug Aiken, he and I exchanged how we both had a love for music. And so I wanted to sing to the participants there in recovery. And I'd like to share this song with you guys today.
Seems like all I could see was the struggle. Haunted by ghosts that lived in my past. Bound up in shackles of all of my failures, wondering how long is this gonna last. Then you look at this prisoner and say to me, son, stop fighting the fight, it's already been won. I am redeemed. You set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains and wipe away every stain, 'cause I'm not who I used to be. I am redeemed. I'm redeemed. All my life I have been called unworthy, named by the ghost that lived in my past. But when I hear you whisper, child, lift up your head, I remember, oh God, you're not done with me yet. 'Cause I am redeemed. You set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains and wipe away every stain, 'cause I'm not who I used to be. Because I don't have to be the old man inside of me, 'cause his day is long dead and gone. Because I've got a new name, a new life, I'm not the same, and a hope that will carry me home. I am redeemed. You set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains, wipe away every stain, 'cause I'm not who I used to be. I am redeemed. You set me free.
So I'll shake off these heavy chains, wipe away every stain, 'cause I'm not who I used to be. Oh God, I'm not who I used to be. Jesus, I'm not who I used to be. 'Cause I am redeemed. Thank God, redeemed.
Gained weight. I don't even know how to follow that. Good morning. I'm Lauren Kissinger. I am the Director of Development and Marketing here with Healing Housing. I'd like to start with a favor. Take a minute and just look at me. What do you see? Me. You see me. Am I your neighbor? The person you sit next to on the pew every church Sunday? Maybe I remind you of your sister, your aunt, even your daughter. But take another look. I also happen to be that statistic Olivia mentioned. I'm that 1 in 4 girls who was sexually abused as a child. I'm the one who at 5 years old played duck, duck, goose with your kid, all the while fearing my return home, where my dad inevitably waited to beat me with an angry fist, a belt buckle, and even a golf club. Who at age 10 had already learned to hate myself because that's what my own father told me, that I was disgusting and worthless, and that I should appreciate his touches because no one would ever want me. Who at 14 didn't know or didn't want to be alive anymore and began cutting my wrists as a means of self-harm. I'm the one who at 18 began a decade-long affair with Jack Daniel's whiskey, who kept me running from my fears and my anger and my deep feelings of pain. I'm the one who found myself in jail for 45 days for risking the lives of others and myself by selfishly driving drunk on more than one occasion. The one who's been turned away from job opportunities due to my criminal record. The one who's lost so many relationships with friends, many of whom are here, and family members because of my alcohol-induced behaviors. But then in 2015, God gave me a wake-up call. One Friday afternoon, I downed shot after shot of tequila before deciding I'd had enough. Not enough of the tequila, but enough of life. Driving home from the bar, I came up with a plan to kill myself. How many of you guys know the entrance to Ellington Park, the agricultural center on Edmondson? That's where it was supposed to end. That's where I was supposed to die. The end of the pain, the fear, and the self-hatred. The last thing I remember of that night was seeing my speedometer hit 70 miles an hour. I don't remember the crash, the ambulance ride, or the time spent in the hospital and the psych ward. But I do remember coming out of unconsciousness, knowing that God had given me another chance at life, a life I knew I had to live sober, without alcohol. I've spent the last 3 years working hard to turn my life back around. Since my wreck, I've seen God's blessings at work, including working here with these wonderful women. Throughout every step of my sobriety journey, God has provided me with the financial means to receive treatment and counseling, a safe home to continue my recovery, and countless people, again, many of whom are here, who have stood beside me and encouraged me through times of relentless temptation. This summer, God reminded me of his grace and his greater plan for me. Driving home from work, I saw the flashing lights of a police car in my rearview mirror. Now, when you've been in trouble as much as I have, blue and red lights are not your favorite thing to see. But for once, I knew that I was not doing anything illegal, and I was right. The cop had just wanted to let me know that my taillight had gone out. He asked to see my license and insurance information just to follow protocol. And then he stopped. He looked at me. He looked at the license. He looked back at me. And he said, "I thought that was you." I was convinced he had to have been one of the cops who had pulled me over in one of my drunken stupors, maybe the first time when I got to go to jail in a tacky Christmas sweater with bells and jingles and whatnot. But I was wrong. I was there, he said. The wall. I was the first responder. I'm the one that pulled you out of the car that day. He went on to say that he had thought about and prayed for me numerous times over the years, and that he was so glad that I was still alive and sober. God felt that I deserved a second chance and reminded me that there is hope after pain. The women of Healing Housing deserve the same. These women have the desire and the determination to reclaim their lives and to rise above their addictions. They have the courage to rip off the Band-Aid and face the pain that has been eating at their souls for years. The vulnerability and the openness required to experience true healing. The willingness to trust God's plan for them as beautiful, worthy children of God. But they need your help. When you support Healing Housing, you're giving women in need another chance at life. You're giving women like Christy the strength and courage to turn away when offered that first drink. You're giving all the Jessicas out there a chance to show her children what it means to be healthy and hope-filled. You're giving future participants like Becky the faith that God will provide when everything else seems lost. Now, I'm going to confess, I'm still kind of new at this job, and this is the first time I've ever gotten to ask something this big, but I'm telling you this is important, and this is riding on it. I ask you to take a moment and prayerfully consider sharing your blessings by making a donation to Healing Housing. When you give, you're providing women like the ladies you just heard and on the screen to tools in their recovery, including a safe home full of love and support rather than the triggers of past addictive behaviors, individual and group counseling to address the pain behind the use of the drugs and alcohol, a savings program that encourages financial independence, relapse prevention and 12-step work, opportunities for Bible study and involvement with the church community, life skills classes that teach women how to live healthily and productively. In front of each of you, you will find a pledge card and an envelope. If you'll take a look at the card, you'll find a couple of ways you can help. The first option is a one-time donation. A gift of $1,500 provides supportive services for a woman for 2 weeks. $3,000 provides a safe home and a warm bed for 7 women for a full month. The second option you'll see is an invitation for you to join our Cornerstone Club, which is our new monthly giving program. Hope sponsors are the foundation for the work of Healing Housing, providing ongoing support all year long. Your recurring gift makes each month matter. When you've completed the card, please place it in your check in the white envelope that's included. You'll then hand these envelopes to your table host, who will collect them in the large manila envelope. So go ahead, please, take a couple of minutes and consider these options. You may have come through these doors with a specific amount to donate in mind, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate that, but maybe God is asking you to give maybe a little bit more. I was given a second chance at life. You now have the opportunity to give these women that chance too.
On behalf of all the women of Healing Housing, we would like to thank each and every one of you for your love and your generosity and most of all your prayers. And we're going to give you a few more minutes just to fill out your cards and then we'll dismiss. A reminder that all of the flowers on the tables are up for grabs if you want to leave $20. And also on your way out, there's a table with some brochures and pamphlets of some upcoming events and a needs list if anyone is looking for a way to help with Healing Housing. And I'd like to ask everyone to please stand. I think that flower must be going to someone's wife. And please bow your heads. Our Father, thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debt as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Thank you.